For decades, the magic retirement number seemed to be $1 million. People thought if they could hit that mythical, magical number, all their dreams would come true and they could retire on beautiful Florida beaches or next to a pool like this. But the truth is, $1 million probably doesn't cut it anymore. I'm going to dig into the numbers and tell you why $1 million probably isn't enough to even cover the basics if you're planning a retirement anytime from now into the near future. So let's dig in. I'm Jeff. This is the Retirement Mentality channel. It's a place where I want to change your mentality about retirement. And I almost am reluctant to do a video like this because I think one of the main reasons a lot of people put off saving for retirement or don't save for retirement is the simple fact that they hear you need $1 million to retire, and that number sounds so big and so daunting that they never even start, or they just keep putting it off. But the truth is, maybe you need to get a little bit more scared. I'm going to tell you why $1 million probably isn't enough, and I'm going to use facts and figures to make my point. I Googled the average budget required for a couple in the US to retire, and that number is about $6,000 a month according to the Google research that I did. That's $72,000 a year. I looked at the UK as well. It was a little bit lower. It was about $58,000 if you equate the pounds to the dollars. And I looked at my own budget, and my budget was a little bit lower than $72,000. Well, if you add in retirement travel or travel in retirement to my actual budget is about $60,000. And then if I add in, I like to put $10,000 to $12,000 into my budget for travel. So that puts me right about that 72. If I put $12,000 in $1,000 a month for travel budget, that puts me right bing, bang, boom in the middle of 72,000 at $6,000 a month, which it says the average American needs to retire. So most people in the FIRE movement or in any retirement circle, the first thing you're going to hear about is the 4% rule. I'm sure everybody knows the 4% rule. But when you dig into the numbers, if you have $1 million, 4% of $1 million is $40,000 per year. And that's pre-tax dollars. So I went into the ChatGPT and I was like, how much would you have left over from $40,000 if you were doing a safe withdrawal from your $1 million? And at first it did it as a single person. I decided to have it do it as a married person. And it was a little bit less than I thought. It was only about $1,000, $1,080, I think it was, in federal taxes. And then if you live in a state like Florida, you have 0 state taxes. But it said if you live in a low-cost state with a 5% state tax, it's probably about another $1,000, $1,500. And a higher tax state would be about 10% of your income that you're drawing off of, so it'd be maybe up to $3,000 or $4,000. So the numbers range from $39,000 you'd have left over in Florida to somewhere around $35,000 if you live somewhere like California. I don't know about you, $35,000 doesn't sound like much to me to live off of in California. Even $38,000, $39,000 in Florida ain't gonna cut it here. My property taxes just went up again this year. They're approaching $5,000 a year, and my homeowner's insurance is getting over $5,000, $6,000 a year. So you're over $10,000 just in insurance and taxes on my house. If you're retiring early and both people pay $400 a month, let's say, for their health insurance, that's $800 a month for a couple. So that's, let's call it $9,000 to make the numbers easy. Let's call it $10,000 for your health insurance. So you're $20,000 for your health insurance, your homeowner's insurance, and your taxes before you buy a adult beverage or a pizza to survive and nourish yourself, or pay the power bill or the Wi-Fi or the cable or your Netflix, or put gas in your car or your car insurance. You get the point. So where did this idea that the magical, mythical number of $1 million would get us into a sweet, sweet retirement where we could lounge next to the pool all day? I have my pool shirt on here. I'm going to go for a swim after this because we do still have a little bit of pool weather left here in October in Florida. So I went back and I looked. $40,000 in the year 2000 was equivalent to $75,000 today, 25 years later. Boom, that's the exact number that it says. It says you need $72,000 today to live off of. But that $1 million isn't going to get you there today. So now you need $1.5 to $3 million. You can do the math on where it needs to get based on what your budget is. Inflation just eats that dollar up, and healthcare costs are getting out of control as well. I'll pop in a graph here that shows that the average person pays today in 2025 close to $500 a month in healthcare, and in 30 years, because of inflation and rising healthcare costs, that's going to be equivalent to about $1,500 a month. That's per person. So if you're planning to retire today, let's say you could survive on that $40,000 today. In 30 years, it's going to get you a lot less for the money that it is today. Hopefully, you're not a renter and you bought your house, because rents are going to obviously keep up with inflation. Your taxes and your insurance, if you're a homeowner, are going to continue to go up like mine have on this house. My insurance has doubled in less than 5 years, as well as my homeowner's insurance has doubled in less than 5 years. So those are costs that are going to just keep going up. So you got to have something that's keeping up with inflation for your retirement income. Also, people are living longer than they used to, and who knows, maybe with AI, it's going to figure out a way for us to live to 120 and be healthy into our 90s or 100s. Who knows? I'm not one of these people who really quite believes that yet, but who knows? The future is looking very interesting right now. And if all of your money is just in ETFs or the stock market, you've got market volatility to contend with, and on those lower years, you need to pull a little bit less out, and on those good years, you can pull a little bit more out. But the ups and downs, that's just part of being in the stock market. So what is the answer? What can you do to save your retirement? Well, the first thing, and this is what I preach about in all of my videos, almost all of my videos, it's one of the main points I make in my videos, is that it's not to work to some arbitrary number, 1 million, 1.5, 3 million, whatever the number is. You have to actually figure out what your budget is going to look like in retirement. And your budget in retirement might look different than your budget in your working days, because you're going to have 8 hours of your day, or 10 hours if you got to commute each way, that you got to learn how to fill up and entertain yourself. There's plenty of things you can do that don't cost any money. You can go for a swim. I could walk out down to the beach and sit with my beach chair and go fishing. But I also like to play golf. I like to go deep sea fishing in a boat, and I like to travel, and I like to do many other things that do cost money. So you have to figure out what your actual budget is going to look like, and then reverse engineer how much income you need to pay for that lifestyle. I think too many people pick an arbitrary number like 1.2 million, and they work to that number only to find out that they're not going to have enough money. Or they pick a number like $4 million and they work to that number only to find out they could have retired 3 years earlier with less money. I'm going to give you a couple scary statistics here. 45% of Americans retiring at 65 risk outliving their savings. 58% of seniors fear that they're going to run out of money. Nearly half of retirees consider returning to work. 1 in 10 in 2025 have returned to work, and half of retirees are considering it. And overall, 20% of retirees are already working part-time jobs. So figuring out a side hustle might be part of your retirement. I did my retirement plan involved getting real estate and using the rental income to pay for my lifestyle. So hopefully the real estate will continue to, the rent payments will go up with inflation. Like this house here is a vacation rental, and they have not been keeping up with inflation, but I also have long-term rentals, which are. So I've got a mix of short-term and long-term rentals, and I'm gonna have to maybe reevaluate my real estate portfolio based on changing market conditions of the real estate market. Nobody thought 10 years ago that, here where I live in Panama City Beach, Florida, that half of the houses, but basically all the houses that have sold here in the last 10 years have been turned into vacation rentals. So the competition is greater and everybody's profits are going down. That's just part of the game, and we may have to reevaluate. So what do you think? Is $1 million enough for you to retire on? Do you have a different number picked out? Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what your retirement strategy is. Are you using real estate? Are you in ETFs? Do you have a business? Are you gonna sell NFTs? Are you a Bitcoin bro? Tell me your retirement plan down below, and if you think you're gonna have enough money when you retire, or if you're gonna have to work past 65. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Sometimes your comments help other people down there in the comment sections, so I encourage you to leave them down there. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you can watch more content like this. The next video I'm going to make is going to be about how I'm going to cut my expenses, to see if I can cut my expenses in half by living in Europe. It's going to be up here next week. Something else is going to be here right now, but ring the little bell down there and it'll tell you when I put this video out. It's going to be next week.